Welcome to Girl Dad, the podcast, the essential podcast for fathers navigating the complex but rewarding journey of raising daughters. I'm your host, Madeline Anderson, and I'm thrilled to bring you honest conversations with dads and daughters, sharing heartfelt stories, actionable advice, and real daughter perspectives that will help you be the best girl dad you can be. All right, Larry Hagner, welcome to Girl Dad, the podcast.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. And I think not only were you a guest on the podcast, but I think you came in and did a Q&A with our guys.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, you did. And I think we aired that, which was received really, really well. So, man, it was awesome. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, me too. It's great to see you again. And you have something very exciting to share today. So you've got a book coming out September 16th, The Pursuit of Legendary Fatherhood, and it's based on a decade of work. So I'd love for you to kick off today by just telling us all about your book, what inspired it, and who you wrote it for.
You know, so the book is kind of a funny story. Like even the writing of it, like it's got a few twists and turns. So, kind of funny thing. I met a publisher, guy who owned a publishing company at a speaking event. We became pretty close. And then I knew I had this goes back to probably right around COVID, because that's when I kind of started writing Pursuit of Legendary Fatherhood. And I met him and I was like, hey, I got an idea for a book. And he's like, what's the book? And I was like, it's going to be a book on fatherhood. I don't know much about it, but it's basically going to talk about all the research that I've done over the years. And this is summer break for you. It's good to see you.
Hi.
Get out of my office so I can talk about being a good dad, will you? Jeez. So, that's my 11-year-old. It's still summertime in my house for this. This is the last week of summer vacation. So, which basically means this is the last week before me and their mom get some privacy during the day.
Right.
But anyway, so, so I had an idea for this book. I knew that there was a book in me. I just didn't know what it was going to be yet. I just was like, man, we have done so much work up to that point. It was 5 years, 6 years, of just coaching guys, teaching guys. I had been podcasting for about 6 years at that point, had probably had well over 700 episodes under my belt at that point. And I was like, I feel like we finally, we sort of have the lock and key as it relates to some of the solutions that we can give guys out there who just want to be better dads, better husbands, right? Because we as men, we like to make things super complex. We like to make things really a lot harder sometimes than what they need to be. So I wanted to write a book that would simplify a lot of things. And that's what I really went to work on. But the whole process of the book was really kind of funny. So I meet this publisher at this event, approaches me, talk to him about a book, end up signing a book deal with him. And he specializes in writing self-help books for entrepreneurs. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect, right? So I write the book, go through the entire book writing process. But kind of funny, let me back up. When I started writing the book, he's like, okay, what are you going to title this book? And by the way, he's single, and he has no kids at this point in time. And I said, I've got a title for the book. It's going to be called Pursuit of Legendary Fatherhood. And the guy looks at me like I've got two heads, and he goes, The Pursuit of Legendary Fatherhood. And I said, yeah. He goes, it seems a little long. Why not just call it Legendary Fatherhood? And I smiled at him and I go, you're obviously not a dad yet. And he's like, well, no, I'm not. You know that. I was like, right, you're not married yet. And he's like, no, I'm not. And I was like, then you have no clue that what you just said was completely and totally idiotic on so many levels, because no one gets to the top of the mountain and says, look, I'm a legendary father. I'm awesome. I literally got a gold star in this. I am amazing at this. But there is the pursuit of it. There's the constant growth of it. There is the never stop chasing pursuit and growth. So Pursuit of Legendary Fatherhood, it's basically the constant chase and the growth of it. So the funny thing is 6 weeks before this book is supposed to launch, it was actually supposed to launch in September of 2022. That's how long the book's actually been done.
Wow.
And I did add some things to it though over the past few years, so that it has been updated. But the guy's company goes out of business 6 weeks before, declares bankruptcy. And I'm like, wow, what do I do now? So he's like, well, I can either help you self-publish or I'll sign the book rights back over to you. And I was like, I'll take B. I'll just take my book back. So I went shopping for publicists, and Morehouse Publishing, who's been around for a long time, answered our call. They put together a meeting, and they're like, yeah, we love the book, but we want you to write another one first. And I'm like, what? they're like, yeah, we want you to write a book called Spirit of Fatherhood. It's a faith-based Christian approach to fatherhood. We want you to do it. And I thought it was a joke. I was like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Like that's not me. Like I am not worthy to even write a book like that. And because I was kind of newer to my faith. And they challenged me on that and they said, well, that's exactly why we want you to write it, because you're
Hmm.
newer to it. So I ended up writing that book. And then I had to sign in my contract that I wouldn't publish Pursuit of Legendary Fatherhood for a year after that book was launched, and it was a year in June. So, but yeah, Pursuit of Legendary Fatherhood is divided up into 4 parts. It's first part's called the drift. That's the sneaky part, the things that kind of sneak up on men. Then there's husband, father, and then there's leader. And I know we're on a podcast talking about girl dads, and I actually did put a section in there around raising girls. And to be quite honest with you, Madeline, I think I might have quoted you in the book. I might have. I can't remember if I did or not. I know I quoted Meg Meeker a lot because she
Mm-hmm.
wrote Strong Daughters, Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. But I want to say I quoted you in here too, just some gems that you shared like on the podcast of what it means to raise a daughter. So I do think that there's a little bit of you in this book.
Well, I'm honored if so. I'm so excited for this book to come out September 16th. Um, I would love to kind of go deeper into each of these parts of the book. So, first off, you've got the drift. Can you tell the audience a little bit more about what the drift is, when that tends to occur, and I guess what happens after the drift?
Yeah, so I think when I first got started doing this work over 10 years ago, one of my mentors was like, you need an avatar. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you need a guy that you're speaking to when you're on your podcast, like the guy that you're actually talking to. And to be honest, like my avatar is me, 15 years ago. But he's like, but you got to give him a name and you got to give him a situation, what he's facing and all that. So I came up with a guy named Lance. And Lance is about 37 years old. He's been married for about 7 to 10 years, give or take. He's in a job that he doesn't really love. He just goes to it and it pays the bills. He doesn't find a passion in it. He finds it pretty stressful, right? But he feels a bit trapped by it because he's like, well, there's not much else for me to do. And plus this puts food on the table. The relationship he has with his wife is mediocre. It's, he normally thinks of things like what they were like when they were dating in the good old days when they used to talk and they used to connect, and it's just not there anymore. It feels like more mom and dad now than it does husband and wife. It feels maybe even a bit like a roommate situation, like where the intimacy probably isn't on point. He loves his kids more than anything, but he finds that he's tired when he's trying to interact with them. He also finds that his patience is waning. He does not, I know this sounds like a really sad story for Lance, but it is the reality. And this is what the drift is. Lance doesn't have a lot of friends either. He's got a lot of acquaintances. He is not short on being able to pick up the phone and be like, hey, man, you want to go out for a few beers this weekend? Like, so he's got friends like that in his life, right? But he doesn't have the guys in his life of like, hey, I'm really struggling with my wife right now, you guys. Like, we're just not connecting. We're not talking. He's talking about the surface level stuff, like the media or the political reality show or his favorite sports team or his college team or whatever else. But there's not a lot of depth in Lance's life. And what Lance is thinking, he's like, isn't there more to this? Like, isn't there more to my marriage than what I'm feeling? Isn't there more of a connection with my kids than what I'm feeling? Like, probably his physical health isn't the best either. He probably looks back on photos when he was younger being like, man, I used to be in such good shape and now I'm just not anymore. My confidence is waning. I don't feel great in my skin. Lance is kind of existing, that's the drift. That is the drift. The drift is the wash, rinse, repeat. It's like this super slow, sneaky thing that sneaks up on us as dudes. And we look at our life around in between our mid 30s and mid 40s, and we're like, this is not what I planned on. I want more. And here's the thing. Men desperately want to access what they're leaving on the table. Number one, they don't know how to do it. So there's like a knowledge gap there of like, how do I actually go get this? Like, how do I actually go cultivate the marriage of my dreams? How do I actually go cultivate a connection with my kids to where they look at me as the go-to? I actually become my kid's 3 a.m. call in the middle of the night. Like things like that, right? And he's got friends that he has so much depth with that he's got a 3 a.m. friend that he can call and be like, man, it's dark for me. I need you right now. And that other friend on the other end of the phone is like, I'll be right there. There's no questions that are asked. Men don't have those situations in their life. They have the opposite. And that's what the drift is. The drift will usually show up with a guy, and the sad thing about this, is that a guy usually won't take action to disrupt the drift until there's a crisis.
Right.
And usually the crisis shows up like this. His wife rolls over one day on a Sunday morning and just says, I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm just not in love with you anymore. And I just really don't want to be intimate with you anymore. Like, I don't really see you that way anymore. And maybe we should talk about options of whether or not we should stay together. I get an email probably once every other week from a guy in the audience who tells me that his wife just dropped a bomb on him, that she's leaving. And he's like, I didn't even see it coming. But here's the real truth. You do see it coming. You really do. If all those symptoms that I just talked about, if you see those in your life, it's coming, right? It just hasn't been said to you yet. So the way to, like, if you listen to the intro of my podcast, it's the mission of the Dad Edge is to positively disrupt the drift of busyness, right? To disrupt that drift and to go create the life and the relationships that you truly want, because you can do it. You just got to have the know-how to do it. But that's what the drift is.
Yeah. And the truth is, there's a lot of people out there like Lance right now. And
Tons.
so what you're doing is so important. And I think that one theme that I talk a lot on this podcast about is intention and showing up with intention in fatherhood. And I think that that's really the start of the change of the drift, right? Like, once you're aware of being in it and you set the intention to get out of it and take action accordingly, that's where things start to change. And so that kind of leads into the next 3 parts of your book, right? So that's starting with the husband.
Right.
And I really want to talk about this because for all the girl dads listening, I think this is so huge, because your relationship with your wife is such a huge role model for your daughter on what she'll expect in a relationship in the future, first of all. And then second of all, there's a ton of research out there that proves that the husband and wife's chemistry and love for one another creates the safety and security of children. So with that said, I would love to talk about the most important elements that you believe are there for being a great husband, and what tips you have for the dads who may be experiencing the drift or maybe just never want that to happen in the first place, on how they can really show up for their wives.
So you just explained beautifully, why we want to keep our marriage on point. Like, a lot of people here, I'm going to say something that might disrupt some of your audience's perceptions, but that's okay. If you're not putting your marriage before parenting, you're missing the mark. And a lot of people are like, no, my kids come first. Well, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. Your wife comes first, or your husband comes first, right? Now, I'm not saying like your kid just, fell off their bike, they broke their leg, but you have a date night to go to. So you're just going to skip that one, right? I'm not saying that at all. Like, when I say your wife comes first or your spouse comes first, it's like micro fractions of your kids of importance and priority come underneath of that. But think of it like this: your marriage, and this is my opinion, and I mean, I've been studying this stuff now for over 10 years, and what I can tell you is what I'm telling you is truth. Your marriage is the foundation of your family house, right? So if the foundation is cracking, it's neglected, it's starting to, crumble, well, so is the rest of the family. So like, if you really prioritize your kids, prioritize your marriage, right? And I say that because we think as parents and as adults, well, if I prioritize another adult over my children, an adult can totally take care of themselves. Like, my husband can take care of himself. My wife can take care of herself. My kids can't do that. That seems really irresponsible, me prioritizing, my spouse over my kids. That's not the priority that I'm talking about. I think, it's more or less like this relationship and how we operate within this relationship and how functional it is and how connected it is and all these different things as it relates to our marriage. Why is this important? Well, where else are our kids going to learn functional relationship skills from is what they see, right? And you nailed it, nailed it, nailed it, nailed it when you said a kid's safety is related to how connected their parents are. So like, for instance, even my 11-year-old and my 9-year-old who you just met a few minutes ago, they're now at this age where they can like answer questions about this kind of stuff, and they answer it in a very 11-year-old and 9-year-old way. And no kidding around, this conversation just happened like a few weeks ago. So it's really fascinating that you and I are having this conversation, because I asked them, I was like, what is it like for you? And then I'm asking my 9-year-old and 11-year-old, what is it like for you to see mom and dad like love each other, hug each other, kiss each other, laugh with each other, like have fun with each other? What's that like for you? And my 11-year-old described it like this: it feels warm. It feels comfortable. It feels cozy. It feels like a good place to be. That's how he described it. Those are the words he used. And my 9-year-old just agreed with him. He's like, yeah, all those things. Like that's what it feels like. That's a kid's way of saying, like, when I see you love each other, I feel really safe to be here. I feel like I should be here. I feel like this is what home is, right? And when parents when married couples are completely and totally disconnected and they have tension between them and then it's like a roommate scenario, but yet we're putting the kids first and it's all about the kids. Your kids are wiser than you think. They sniff
Mhm.
the fact that you're not connected a mile away. They might be happy that they're maybe on an iPad or on screens, they have a roof over their head, but you're leaving a lot of safety on the table if they don't see you love each other really, really well. And that's one of the things that in the book I go over in depth is like, how do you cultivate the marriage of your dreams? To where like, if you're a dad and you have a daughter, you're setting the example and the tone for like, this is how a woman should be treated, right? If a daughter sees a woman treated like a roommate, in a marriage, well, that's probably what she's going to go emulate and what her future is going to be. And my wife also has this belief of like, well, we have all boys, but her belief is I need to show you what it looks like for a woman to love a man well. Because when
Mm.
all these teenage jokers want to come by and be a teenager and an idiot, my wife is like, I've set the bar really, really high for what you're going to tolerate. So yeah, I definitely think as a married couple, we leave a lot on the table if we're not married first.
I totally agree. And I think that if you are using the excuse of putting the kids first, and that's why you're not spending time connecting with your wife, you're actually doing your kids a disservice because of the reasons we just talked about. If you really want to put your kids first, then you should focus on your marriage primarily and then, establish that unity and the strength, like the foundation that you were talking about. Ensure that there are no cracks to the foundation, and that is putting your kids first.
It
Um
is. Yeah.
yeah, so no, that is so important. I'm really glad you cover that in the book. The next part of your book is about fathership or fatherhood. So I would love to have a conversation about that specifically. And when I speak with dads, I have some private clients, and one theme that continues to come up is dealing with teenage daughters and how to really connect with your teenage daughter when she seems to be pulling away when you might have previously had a great relationship. So, based on all of your practice and research, I would love to hear from you on any tips or advice that you have for dads on connecting with teenage daughters and really just improving that side of the relationship.
Sure. First of all, I think that if you haven't read your book, Girl Dad, your entire audience needs to read that one for sure. There's also another book called Untangled by Dr. Lisa Damore, which I thought was a brilliant book, and she talks about teenage daughters in that book. And here's the interesting thing: if you really get to the heart of Dr. Lisa Damore's work and her research, it's not actually 100% all girl related. It's actually, quite frankly, it's teenage related. So like the same symptoms are usually pretty apparent with a teenage boy as they are with a teenage girl. They just sort of like, they come to the surface a little bit differently, but the behaviors are kind of like them staying in their room, for long periods of time. They want to isolate, or when you're talking to them, they seem like they're annoyed and that kind of thing. Here's what I'll tell you. Um, I'm going to answer this two different ways. Number one, the relationship with your teenage daughter, and I don't care who's in your ear and who you're listening to, but anybody who ever tells you, oh, they're teenagers, you just wait until they're teenagers, they won't want a thing to do with you. Oh, they're a teenager, so they're going to write. No, 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 no. You can actually have an unbelievable tight relationship with your teenager, and you can actually have it, in my opinion, anytime you want. It's there for the taking. You're just perceiving it as you can't have it because it's this is my teenage daughter and this is how she operates. Now, here's what I'll tell you. Every situation is probably a little bit different. So I'm going to answer this question a little bit more globally, but I think the same rules somewhat do apply. But I will say this. If there's been a breach in trust, so like if you cheated on her mom and she knows about it, that's going to be a much heavier lift in the relationship. If she doesn't want much to do with you, chances are it's a break of trust in some way, shape, or form, where that's going to take you a lot of work. Okay, so let's cast that one to the side here and just say not every situation is the same. If there's some sort of neglect that has happened, or if there's been like some sort of physical abuse or emotional abuse, if you've had a history of really tearing down your kid, you're probably going to have a little bit more of a heavy lift. But when it comes to raising teenagers and daughters or boys or whatever we're going to call it, here's what I can tell you. An interested dad is interesting. An interested dad is interesting. What a lot of dads will do, especially when their kids are a little older, is they try to pull that kid into their world, right? So like if your dad is into fitness, like I love fitness stuff. Like I love going to the gym. I love working out with my kids, and all my kids work out with me, but I also know that that may or may not be their favorite thing to do, right? And I can't constantly pull them into my world. I have to actually 80% of the time I try to go into theirs. So whatever it is that they're interested in, well, that's what I'm interested in, right? So like I'll tell you a secret. My 17-year-old right now is obsessed with golf, obsessed with it. I can't stand the sport. Like I'm so bad at it. I'm so bad at it. Like I joke, like I'll have guys my age will be like, "Hey, do you golf?" And I'm like, "If you ever want to feel really great about yourself, take me golfing with you." Like, cause I'll make you feel great about yourself. But like, I don't really care. I'm golfing with him on Sunday. I am not excited about going and playing the game at all, but I'm really excited about being in the cart with him and hanging out with him and laughing with him. And I could care less about what I shoot or score. I could care less. But what I really care about is just spending time with him. And I think if that is the goal of a dad who's raising a teenager, I don't care what we do. Don't care as long as we're together. You want to go get your nails done? Yep, I'll go with you. You want to get your toes done? I'll go with you. Let's go do it. You want to go shopping? I'll go do that too. Right? Things like that, I think, go a long way when you're interested in her life or interested in his life. That goes much further than like, let me drag you into my world and show you what I'm interested in and what I think you should be interested in too. So that's one way. Let me answer this one other way. It's okay if your teenagers, and especially if you haven't done the work, meaning the work on the relationship, and your kid they're a teenager and suddenly they don't want much to do with you. Well, if you haven't put a whole lot of deposits in the relationship when they're younger, that's probably going to be the case. But here's what I'll tell you: never, ever, 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 ever stop trying, ever, because as much as you might think your efforts will fall on deaf ears or it's annoying them or whatever else, the effort, believe it or not, is still being recognized to some degree. Your daughter still appreciates you trying. Your son still appreciates you trying. It might not manifest or show up until they're in their 20s, but they're going to be like, "Damn, dad, like, thanks for not giving up on me." Or like, "Dude, I know I didn't treat you very well when I was a teenager, but my gosh, man, thank you for always offering to go out to lunch or take me camping or something like that. Man, that really meant a lot to me. And I didn't appreciate that then, but I do now." So it will come back to you. The thing that a kid will never forget is the day you gave up on them. That's what I can tell you. When you get to the point where you're like, "Fine, I'm just not asking you anymore. I'm done." Well, your kid will remember that one for decades, right?
Mhm.
So our job is to constantly leave that door open, right? Or to constantly open that door and to either be invite them into your world, or like, "Hey, can I come be a part of yours?" And to have that door always open or always swinging back and forth versus it being closed. So moral of the story is it's never too late. Don't buy into the naysayers that tell you, well, you have a teenager, so your relationship with them is going to be broken. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be this. Don't buy into that whatsoever. Um, and you can repair things at any time, and your kid will never forget the day that you gave up on them. So never do that one.
Yeah. No, that is really, really well said. And I think one thing that was extra powerful was an interested dad is interesting. That really rang true for me. Um, And I think that actually goes the same way with dating when it comes to being a man. An interested man is interesting. And it reminds
Very
me of
much.
the first date with my husband. Um, we went out to this dinner and I had the best time ever. Like, best date, just instant chemistry, amazing. And the next day I was still buzzing from it. And I just realized, oh my God, I did not stop talking the entire time. And and he was just asking me questions and just listening and letting me ramble and yap and all the things. And it was so embarrassing for me once I recognized that that's what happened. But the truth is, he was really interested, or at least he pretended to be, and it worked. But we had a great time because of it. And I think, yeah, the same logic applies to being a father. If you can be interested in what your daughter is up to, what she cares about, and find ways to connect with her on those things, she will open the door for you and find that relationship. You'll find the relationship to be much more fluid and easy. And like you said, teenage years don't have to be this daunting time. You can still have a great relationship during turbulence, if there is any. But yeah, I think the main thing is, like you said, do not give up. So thank you for that.
You bet. You bet.
Okay, so the last part of your book is all about leadership. And I think this topic goes hand in hand with another really interesting topic, which is masculinity. And I would love to talk to you about this today because I think there's been some rhetoric in the past about, toxic masculinity. And I think it's been a little bit damaging to young men because I personally think that masculinity at its core, and if you look up any, synonyms for the word, it really is all about strength and courage and protecting and providing and safety and security and all of these beautiful and amazing things. And so I would love the rhetoric to shift to be more about positive masculinity and really encouraging men of all ages to embrace this side of them that is the natural leadership side. And so, maybe from your book or your teachings and your conversations with your community, what have you found masculinity, healthy masculinity to look like in husbands and fathers? And how do you help men really step into that leadership role that is so important?
It's such a great question. And I think you mentioned all the traits of, I think, positive masculinity, all of them. Um, one other one is being calm. So, like, I think a lot of people think of masculinity as something really boisterous, powerful, yelling, screaming, Andrew Tate, that kind of thing. But true masculinity is actually being calm in chaos. So, like, think about, if you've ever been on, like, if you were on a ship, right, and it started to sink, and the captain of all people lost his mind, you'd probably be like, "Oh wow, we're really in trouble." Like, if that guy's losing his mind, we're all in trouble. So think of positive masculinity as also being very calm. A lot of people think that masculinity is chaotic. It's actually the opposite. It's actually calm. Um, Leadership. So yeah, the last bit of the book is 10 rules of leadership. The first one is this. This I think might surprise people or might not actually at all, which is you have to lead yourself first. First, you have to lead yourself first. And a lot of people are like, well, I got to lead others. Well, you got to lead yourself first. So, and you tell me, Madeline, you tell me if I'm wrong, but a consistent man is an attractive man.
Absolutely.
A consistent man is an appealing man, right? A guy who is true to his word. Like, and I'm not talking about as true to his word to you, but the true to his word to himself is an attractive thing. So I'll give you an example. A woman's 3 basic needs in a marriage is to feel seen, heard, and safe, right? A man's is to feel respected, appreciated, and we need physical affection. Those are our 3 needs. When a woman, but the one need that I always really, really like to hit on the most is safety, because that safety button, in my opinion, is the most powerful button for women. And it's not just one tree, it's a tree with several branches. Like, safety infiltrates everything. So, like, for instance, financial intimacy, financial safety, that's a real thing for a woman to be attracted to from a man, is like, and a woman doesn't need, a guy with, $100 million, right?
Right.
But what she does want to know is like, hey, if our kid needs a new pair of shoes, can I go out and buy that pair of shoes without calling you frantically wondering if we're going to bounce something? Right? There's a safety aspect in that, like that financial safety, right? And being broke is not attractive. And that's not to say that women are gold diggers. That's saying like, I don't feel safe when I know that our basic needs can't be met, period. The safety thing also shows up in emotional IQ with guys, like how we actually communicate with you, right? Like the tone of our voice, our body language, the way our eyes look at you when you're talking to us. Like we can actually create safety in conversation just by paying attention to our tone and how we talk to you guys, right? And how we actually listen. Um, there's another safety in here, which goes back to leading ourselves. So like, for instance, if you're with a guy who's like, hey, tomorrow morning I'm getting up at 5 a.m. and I'm hitting the gym, and then I'll be home by 6:30 in the morning and we'll have coffee or something. And you see a trend with this guy day after day, week after week. He hits the snooze bar. He never goes to the gym, never keeps his word to himself. I'm thinking that that's probably not too appealing or attractive for you.
No, I just realized my face visually changed into like
It
a,
did.
ugh,
Yeah, it did.
because that was my natural reaction to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really do want the consistency that you're talking about.
You do. And when a guy cannot, so like one of the ways to in leadership is you've got to lead yourself. And guys are like, well, I do. And they're like, no, you actually have to keep the word to yourself. Whatever word that you say or whatever commitments you're committing to, come hell or high water, you do those things, whether you feel like it or not. So like this morning, like truth be told, like we just got a new mattress 2 weeks ago, and this thing is horrific to sleep on. My wife and I have not been sleeping well. And I told my wife, I was like, I'm getting up at 5:45 tomorrow and I'm going to the gym. And my alarm went off. I didn't feel like getting up, but I did. And it was because like there are other eyes watching besides me, right? And I have to, if I want to make my wife feel safe, I have to be a man of my word. So I did that, so like we have to be able to lead ourselves. One other way of leadership is to lead by example. So like, for instance, if I want my kids to be physically fit, then I have to show them what that looks like. If I want my kids to eat better, I have to show them what that looks like, right? I can't be like, hey, you should eat healthier as I'm stuffing down 6 beers and hot dogs, right? Or like, hey, you should show up to practice more and give more effort, but yet I can't even run a mile. Well, that's not really leading by example. So you've got to lead by example. So that's another way of leadership there. Um, One other way I think that men could do a better job, and I didn't realize this until I wrote Spirit of Fatherhood, is that spiritually, I think men can do a better job being the spiritual leader in the house. And I'm not saying I'm an expert in that in any way. I'm about as green as it gets. But one thing I have learned about spiritual leadership is, and this is my own experience, I've just really stepped into that myself probably over the past year of really leading the kids and Jess, through, what it means to have faith and that kind of thing. And it's looked much differently than I thought it would. And what I mean by that is sometimes leadership is be the first one to step into being a student. Be like, hey, guy, like I always thought, like, well, in order for me to lead this, I have to be worthy of it, which means I have to have a lot of knowledge and I have to be able to teach this stuff. And that's actually not the case. You can actually, you know, bring everybody together and say, hey, let's all go learn this together. Right. And I'll be the first one in line to be like, I'll be the first one. Like, let's go. Let's go. I'll go learn together. So even as a lot of guys out there where I think the spiritual leadership feels very overwhelming to guys, like I get that, man. I see it all day long. It also feels like we're unworthy to do it. Like I'm not even worthy. I don't even read the Bible myself. Like how am I supposed to lead somebody through that? It's literally opening up your Bible with your kids and be like, let's read Matthew chapter 1 together. I've never read this. Let's read it together. See what we get out of it. Right? Just things like that you don't have to be the expert, but you do have to be the one to say, I'll go first and you guys follow me. So those are a few.
Yeah, and I think that theme can translate to a lot of different elements in life. I think, humans, we try to protect ourselves when we don't know something, so we just don't do it. Or, when it comes to starting a business, right? The idea of failing is so daunting that we might just think, okay, well, I just won't ever start it. but the joy and the reward from going through that process, from completing that thing that is hard, is so great and it's amazing. And so I think that, you could apply that kind of idea in a lot of different ways and grow and challenge yourself from it. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, so, as we're wrapping up here, are there any other things that you want people to know about your book? Anything that you're really excited about sharing?
Yeah, there's one other thing. So first of all, I just want to say this. If you don't know what you're doing as a husband or father, and if any of what I talked about rang true, you're like, holy crap, like that is me to a T. You're not alone. You're not. You're actually the majority. You're not the minority. A lot of people think that they're all alone. But here's what I'll tell you. I don't know if there's ever been any moment in time as there is right now that you can actually go out and learn this stuff with no problem. I actually think about like our parents, Madeline, like me and you, like our parents, like what, like the limited, I use that word so strongly, the limited resources they had to figure out how to parent or how to be married. I mean, and the other thing too, like, let's not even talk about like the taboo that like the parents that raised us, right? If they were in marriage counseling, oh, they were broken or they were weak or they had serious problems. So you were almost, you were actually, I think the generation behind us was, they were not nearly as motivated to go out and seek help because it was a reminder of like, well, maybe we're just not meant for this, or we're just broken, or we're just that. And what I'll tell you is there's never a more accepting moment in time than there is right now to be like, oh, you don't know how to parent? Well, jump in the water, because none of us do. So we're all trying to figure it out. So the good news is now you're living in a generation and you're living in a time where this is really widely accepted and people want to go out and find this information. So there's the good news there. And we have our mastermind program. We have podcasts, all kinds of resources. But one thing in particular about this book doesn't release until September 16th. But what I am doing is, if you want to pre-order the book, I've got some incentives for anybody who pre-orders the book. So if you go to thedadedge.com/legendary book, again, thedadedge.com/legendary book, that's all one word. If you pre-order the book for $28, I throw in 2 of my most popular courses that I think have answered a lot of questions that guys deal with. So the first course is creating more patience. So for all my dudes out there, all my brothers out there who are just like me, who, man, sometimes you're quick to temper. It's like all the stressors of the world get to you, and then your kid does something and you feel like you're going to lose your mind. Good news is your patience muscle is the same as your resilience muscle. So if you know how to work out that resilience muscle, which I teach that in the course, you're going to be a more patient father. So that's one access. That course is $500, but you'll get it for free if you pre-order the book. The other course that I have is Creating Extraordinary Marriage Through Elevated Communication, Connection, and Intimacy. The marriage portion of this book, a lot of what I put in there was stuff that you'll get in the course. So it's basically how to communicate better with your wife, and how she can communicate better with you, and how you can connect better and have more intimacy and more closeness and all these different things. That is also $500, but you have access to that right away as well. People have asked, they're like, well, why are you giving away like $1,000 in courses for this book? And to be honest, like, I don't really care about the money that I ever make in courses. I mean, it's just it's kind of like books. They do their thing and people are either going to buy them or not. I don't really pay attention to it. But my view of it is I'm not able to send out these books until September. So if you're willing to spend $28 because you're like, I really want my hands on this information, the least I can do is be like, well, here's some information to get you started right now, right? While you're waiting for the book. So like I said, if you go to thedadedge.com/legendary book, you can buy it for $28 and you'll get free access to those courses.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing. And for any dads who are listening, go get the book right now, pre-order it. This is amazing. Larry is incredible. He is the guy for all things fatherhood. So I'm so grateful to have you on. I'm sure the audience will really get a lot of takeaways from this conversation. So thank you so much for being here, Larry.
Thank you so much for having me. This was like, when I saw us on the calendar, I'm like, oh my gosh, like what an honor. I'm going to be on the Girl Dad podcast. Like I feel so unqualified for that one, but yeah, but thanks so much for taking a chance on me.
Of course. Thank you.
Can I say one thing before we head out?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So this is a message to your audience. So I've gotten the opportunity to know you for the past, like, I think maybe 4 years or so. And while I don't know you that well, and we're not like, we don't like talk every day or every week or anything like that, I feel like I know you well enough to where I've had you on the podcast. A few years back, you came and did a Q&A for us. I follow you on social media. I stop every time I see something you post and I read it. And I'll tell you, and I read your book. I will tell you, the audience, if you're listening to Madeline's show, whatever you're doing right now, stop what you're doing and go leave her a 5-star review on either iTunes or Spotify or something, because this young woman right here who is behind this microphone, she's got so much passion for this. She's got she has incredible resources, and she speaks all from her heart. So please, these podcasts are for free, and us podcasters, we work our tails off. And what really helps us out is if you leave us a 5-star review. So if you really love what she's doing, which I'm sure you do, that's why you're listening, stop what you're doing right now. Go over and leave her a 5-star rating and review.
Oh, thank you so much, Larry. That really means a lot.
You're welcome.
Thank you for tuning in to Girl Dad, the podcast. If you found today's conversation helpful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow girl dad. I read every review and truly take your words to heart. To close out, remember, your intentional moments make lasting legacies. See you next week.